StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is you play to win the game. And before we get into this, I remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation, Monday motivation messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you have to do to receive these is be part of my texting community. And guess what? It's free to join. Just text me at this number, 305-384-6894. And when we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting those straight to your phone. And again, it's free to join. Just text me at that number. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. You want to have access to our mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability frameworks, our best teachings, my strategic teaching, tactical trainings, all of my best stuff when it comes to these areas. The stuff that you hear on this show, if you like this, imagine what it's like when you're having me as your direct coach, walking you through the process of getting from where you are to where you want to be on the personal side and the professional side. I don't know what else to say. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can get access to that. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. With that out of the way, let's get into the topic here today, which is you play to win the game. So I got to thinking about this whole concept, you play to win the game, and I was remembering this. That was actually a couple things. First of all, I was probably talking on social media to someone, the sports fans these days, who seem to have lost the plot as to what the purpose of playing a sports match is. The purpose of playing a sports match, ladies and gentlemen, is to win the game. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're male or female. I don't care what level you're playing at. The purpose of playing a sports competition is to win the game. Again, there are no exceptions to that. That is the main objective of playing. Now, there may be other things you wish to achieve in the process, but the main objective is to win the game. And it got me to thinking about this very famous soundbite that came from a former NFL football coach. I believe he works in broadcasting and analysis these days. His name was Herm Edwards, and at the time he was coaching the New York Jets. And it was after a game, or maybe it was at just a press conference in between. I believe it might have been after a game, where Herm Edwards, it was taken out of the context of a bigger conversation that was being had. But he said exactly this. He said, "You play to win the game." All right? That's the reason why we play. We play to win the game. I don't even know what question he was asked, but that's the part that everybody remembers. And one of the things that he said was that the great thing about sports is that you play to win the game. So today, even though you may not play sports, I'm going to explain to you how you need to have the same mindset that Coach Herm Edwards had and play to win your game, whatever your game happens to be. And the fact that this is all called Work on Your Game is perfect. It's poetically perfect for how this all works together. Point number one. Topic once again today is you play to win the game. Number one, define the win. So if the purpose is playing to win the game, first of all, we need to know what winning the game actually means. So if you want to be successful, we got to be clear on what does successful mean. You want to be happy? What does happy mean? You want to be a professional? What does it being a professional mean? You need to answer these and fill in the gaps of what these things mean and get yourself out of a vague city. Many people live in vague city, which is they have these vague things that they want to achieve, but you haven't put any flesh to it. What does it mean to win the game for you? What is your win? And your win I don't mean you have to give me your whole life's goal, life's mission. You can if you want to, but what does it mean for you to win today? Today, like the literal day you're listening to this, what needs to happen today for today to be a win for you? You should know. You should have an answer to this question. What would need to happen for you to know that you are winning or that you have already won? Or that you're on the road to winning? What do you need to see? What are some signs that tell you I'm in the process of winning? If you don't have a goal, folks, it's pretty hard to score. So what is a score for you? What is the win? What would need to happen? What would need to be true? What needs to be clearly documented, meaning when you can show this and this and this on paper, that means you won. What is that for you? And the challenge for many people is that they can't win because they have not defined what winning is. So therefore, no matter what you do, you can't win. You set yourself up to lose because in a sport, there's a binary. There's winner and loser. There is no, everybody did good. No, it's winner, loser. It's winner, and then there's the person who lost to the winner. There's the person who lost to the winner, and the person who lost to the winner. And then it just goes down in descending order. But there is a binary of winner and loser in the sports world. Question is, what is your win defined as? How do you define your win? When I was looking to get into pro basketball back in 2005, I came out of a Division III college, by the way, for those who don't know my background, which is the third tier of college sports. Don't really produce pro athletes from that level. I knew what my win was. My win was I needed to sign a contract to play for a team professionally. It was probably going to be outside of the United States. Usually in Europe is where a lot of players can start their careers. That's where I was looking to go. So me being signed to a professional team, playing in Europe, and playing basketball for a living was my win. That was the win. I had a lot of steps I need to take in the process in order to get there. What would need to be true? Well, I'm probably going to need an agent because no teams overseas know me, because here I am, this kid from Philadelphia who went to this small school. Nobody overseas knows me, so I probably need to connect with an agent because the agent knows people overseas and I do not. So that's one of the things that would need to be true probably in order for me to make that happen. Another thing that would need to be true, I would need to go to some type of exposure event where I could play against other pro level players and prove that I could hang with them and I belonged amongst them. Because again, coming from a Division III college that doesn't produce pro athletes, I couldn't prove much about myself by playing against those guys. I had to play against some higher level people outside of school, so I need to go to an exposure camp and do that. Another thing that would need to be true is I need to continue to work on my game so that I'm continuing to get better as a player, because when I go overseas, the players over there will probably be bigger, stronger, faster, and better at basketball than the players who I was playing against at my Division III college. So all of these things would need to be true in the process of me doing my thing. And then what else would need to be true, just thinking past the sale, as we say, is I would want to extend my career. I don't want my career to be just one place that I played or 1 year or one job. I want to play for multiple years and have a career, not just a cup of coffee and playing professional basketball. So all of these things I wanted to be true. And over time, all these things came true. All these things did happen. I went and found me an agent. I went to an exposure camp, not in this particular order. I kept working on my game and I made myself better. And I had a longer career than just one season. These are all things that I wanted to happen. These are all things I was thinking about in the process of doing it. And this is part of the point of why I'm sharing this, is that if you're not thinking about these things, usually they don't happen just randomly. Sometimes they do, but I wouldn't bet on it. But how are you going to bet on something that happens randomly? You don't even know what to bet on because you don't know what's coming. So you got to know what your win is so that you know what you want to do. How much money do you want to make this year? How much money do you want to make this month? How many customers do you want to have? All right, how much, if you're a content creator, how many pieces of content do you want to put out every day? If you write, how many pages do you need to write a day? Right? All of these things you should know. You should know the answers to these questions so that you're not walking around in the dark just doing stuff and hoping that it ends up taking you where you want to go. Many people can't win because they have not clearly defined winning. And if you don't clearly define winning, it doesn't matter what you do because you're never going to end up in any place worth being, because, again, how is something worth being if you haven't decided to be there? So to make sure that you don't get stuck in this trap, stop everything you're doing professionally right now and get clear on what winning means to you. Get clear on what it looks like to you and for you. Remember that everything we do work-wise, everybody, is a means to an end. Okay, so that means the ends, rather, need to be defined so that you know that you've gotten there. When you get to the end, you should know you're at the end. I ran this morning. I ran 6 miles. And I happened to run on the treadmill today because I took like 6 weeks off from running. So I came back to running. When I come back the first time, if I haven't run in a while, I usually just start off on the treadmill just to make sure everything's working the way that it's supposed to. I run on the treadmill a couple times and I'll take it back outside. I'm in Miami, so you run outside all year round. And when I run, I know exactly how far of a distance I want to run. So I knew that today's run was a 6 mile run. So when I got past 6 miles, I knew it was time to stop. I was finished running. It wasn't arbitrary. I didn't just make it up. I knew from the beginning I was going to do 6 miles. Now, if I go run outside, I'm going to do the same route, let's say the same day, same distance rather. I know exactly where to run in order for it to come up to exactly, or not exactly, just a little over 6 miles. I know the exact route. I know which streets to go down. I know where to turn, where not to turn. I know exactly where to go to where it comes out to exactly 6 miles. I'm saying that to say I haven't mapped out what the end is. I know where the run starts. I know where it ends. And I've designed it such that my run ends at the same place that it starts, because I'm not driving to my run. I go outside of my building, I warm up, I start running right from in front of the building. And when I finish, guess what? I'm right back in front of the building because I've mapped it out. And you can do the same thing. This is not some type of genius that is reserved only for me. Anybody can do this. Most people just don't take the time to do it. Okay? If you don't know where your ends are, then what you end up doing is continuing your means as if they are ends and don't have a conclusion. And this is how people literally work themselves to death. So let's just say I didn't define where my run ends. I'm just going to run till I don't feel like running anymore. I'm too tired. Well, I might be all the way on the other side of town because I never stopped and turned around, or I never looped back around to where I was going. And now I'm dead tired. I can't move anymore because my legs won't work. And now here I'm on the other side of town. And how am I going to get home? How am I going to get home? Because I didn't figure out what the end was. This is what happens to a lot of people in their work, metaphorically speaking. Just make sure it's not you. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is you play to win the game. Number 2, excuse me. Everything else that you do is a means to the end. Once you're clear on what the end is, everything else is a means to get there. Simple as that. So what I just said at the end of point number 1, when you're clear on what winning means for you, then you can make sure that everything else you're doing is done with respect to winning. Everything else we do is done with respect to what makes a win a win. This is one of the things that I notice in the discussion around basketball these days. A lot of players and analysts and podcasters and fans have junked up the conversation around basketball to where they're arguing about things that are not the actual end. And the end is winning the game. So you hear players arguing about statistics, who has more tools and abilities, who has more skill, who can do more moves. They're arguing about everything other than who actually is doing things that contribute to winning the game. Because the point of playing is to win the game. That's the point. All of those things that I just mentioned are all done in the pursuit of victory. So having skill, working on your game, being able to do moves, making 3-pointers, putting up stats, all of those are done in the pursuit of victory. At least they should be, not in the pursuit of being able to do them alone in a vacuum. And unfortunately, you get a lot of athletes these days who are raised, especially in the United States, this happens a lot. The United States is a very individualistically driven society. And there are some positives to that, and there are also some negatives to it. One of the negatives is what I see in the sports world, that a lot of athletes grow up with this mentality of, I need to make myself look good, even though they're playing a team sport. And how good they look themselves is paramount compared to, am I helping the team actually win the game? And I see this a lot in basketball. There are a lot of players out there, even pro-level players, who you listen to them talk, and you would think that the most important thing, based on how they talk, most important thing to them is how good they look. The most important thing to them is not winning. The most important thing is, I put up my stats. I got my highlights. I look good. And nobody can say I'm the reason we lost. And I've known players, the whole time I've been playing basketball, I've known players like that. And I hated playing with guys like that. I call these guys stats players. A stats player is just a player who's playing for the stat sheet. They just want to look good on the stat sheet. So whether we win or lose, as long as they had 30 points and 8 rebounds and 5 assists, they can say, hey, I had 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. So we lost. But hey, obviously it's not my fault because look at my stats. Those are what we call stats players. There are players in the NBA who are like this. And these players, I never like playing with them because, again, their goal is not winning. Their goal is their personal shine. And the biggest challenge is when one of these players is good enough that they will continue to put up the stats, but they don't want to win. So their influence is going to bring the team down. You're probably never going to win a championship with a guy like that on the team because of their mentality. Because they're good enough to infect everything else that's happening. Now, if they were a bum with this mindset, it wouldn't matter because they'd be on the bench. But if they're really good with this mindset, then it matters because these players don't want to win. A player like James Harden comes to mind. This is a player who puts up very good stats. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame and should be. Has some great highlights and has done great things. Very skilled and highly able player. But from what I've seen from this guy, he cares more about his statistics and how he personally is perceived than he cares about actually winning basketball games. And he says some things that have pretty much driven this point home. So if James himself hears this, I don't think he can contest what I'm saying. He is proven to be a stats guy. That's who he is. And there are others. He's just the first person that came to mind when I said this here. So it's not really about attacking James himself. But if he hears this, if I'm lying, James, tell me. Anyway, the whole point here, folks, is not about, in basketball, for example, it's not about if I can do more moves than you, if I can jump higher than you, if I have more highlight footage than you. The whole point is who's winning the game. All right, that's the reason why we play. And the point of the game is winning the game. So if you're winning more games than me, but I got all these other things that you don't have, well, you are achieving more than I'm achieving because the whole point is winning. That's the purpose. The reason I jump high and get stats and do moves is to win the game, not to just do them. And again, there are some players out there who don't think this way. They just want to do them so they can say that they did them and get the adulation from the fans and everything else. And I guess you can call this mindset what I'm talking about. I guess you can call this old school, wanting to win the damn game. This is old school, wanting to win the game. If it is, then I'm old school. All right, the whole point of the game is to win. Okay? Everything must be measured with respect to the goal. And as I already explained, many people lose sight of this, or they never had sight of it in the first place. And this is how people end up confused. Not knowing what the goal is, and you're chasing something that's not actually the goal, and then you wonder why you got something that you didn't want because you didn't clearly lay it out. If you don't tell life what you want, life will give it whatever it wants to give you, and you may probably will end up with something that you didn't want. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is you play to win the game. Number 3, all focus is on the win. All your focus must be on the win. NBA coach Phil Jackson, who won 11 championships as a head coach in the league, he would go around the locker room of the Chicago Bulls before every season, and he would have every player state out loud what their biggest goal or goals were for the upcoming season. So players would say something like, I want to be an all-star, I want to play a certain amount of minutes, I want to achieve a certain statistical accomplishment. And when it came around to Michael Jordan, one of the players on that team, at least one time he said, I have no individual goals. My only goal is to win a championship, and everyone in this locker room, you're going to follow my lead. And your focus needs to be similar to Mr. Jordan's when it comes to this. Everything else that you do, although necessary, is only done with respect to achieving the main goal. You only do everything else with respect to achieving the goal. So if you're posting on social media, cool, that's part of the process, but you're posting on social media because the goal is you want the right people to see you and come into your program so that you can help them and get them the 12-step program that they need to lose 30 pounds of belly fat in the next 6 months, or whatever the process is. You need to know what the main goal is, and then everything else is subservient to the goal. Everything else is working for the goal. And anything that you're doing that is not helping to work towards the goal, it needs to go, it needs to be edited, it needs to be changed, or otherwise just completely discontinued. That's how you play to win the game. When you don't know what the main goal is, you can get lost in the sauce of all the other stuff that you're doing, and those things become distractions when they should be tools. See, a tool and a distraction can be the exact same thing depending on how and why it is being utilized, or if it's being utilized. A smartphone, for example, should be used as a tool, but is often used as a distraction. You get what I'm saying? How many of you are using your smartphone right now as a distraction, doing something that you shouldn't even be doing, looking at something that you shouldn't be looking at because it is not moving you closer to the goal? Again, so when I say shouldn't, I'm not just randomly saying that because I think you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. I'm saying, is it helping you get towards your goal? And most of the time people are using their phones. No, we use our phones as distractions rather than tools. This is what I mean. And when you're not aware, you just keep doing it and not realize what you're doing. And what happens is people get distracted by other things and they start using the means as if they are the ends. Again, ask yourself how often this is happening to you. How often are your means becoming ends? Simply because you're not aware of what you're doing. This is why awareness matters so much. This is why noticing what you're doing, seeing yourself in the mirror, or having someone else see you matters. Let's recap today's class, which is you play to win the game. Again, this phrase famously said by former NFL head football coach named Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. This applies in sports. It applies in life. I'm going to tell you how to apply it in life. Number 1, define the win. What does winning mean for you? For you to win, what exactly needs to happen? I'm talking about something that we can check the box. This happened, I won. These 3 things occurred, I won. This 10 things get scratched off the list, I won. What exactly needs to happen so that you know that you have won? Many people have never thought of or even asked this question, let alone answered it. This is the reason why many people come up short, because they don't even know where they're going. Number 2, everything else is a means to the end. Means to the ends are the things that you do under the premise of achieving the main objective. And there must be one main objective, folks. Cars do not have multiple steering wheels. Organizations do not have multiple bosses. There is one boss. Car has one steering wheel. What is the main thing that we're looking to get done? Everything else we do needs to be done with respect to, is it helping us achieve this goal? And if it's not, it needs to go, it needs to be deleted. And that means you got to make some tough choices. Number 3, all focus goes to the win. Phil Jackson will go around the locker room and ask every player on the team, what are your goals for this year? Michael Jordan said, I have no goals. My only goal is to win the championship, and everybody's going to follow my lead. And the point of that is your focus needs to be similar to that, what Michael Jordan's focus was. Everything else you do, although it is necessary, is all done with respect to achieving the main goal. When you don't know the main goal, you're lost in the sauce of all other things that become distractions that should be tools. Look at your smartphone, for example. It should be a tool, but it's used mostly as a distraction. Think about it. All that said, text me so you're in my community. Also go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. If you want to have me as your direct coach, let me help you get your stuff together, get your program together, get your work together so that we can take you from where you are to where you want to go. And we're talking about doing this as quickly as possible. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Mindset, strategy, systems, accountability. Work on your game. Dre all